Hello, nerds! Thank you for joining me here on Nerd News Clips. This is the second channel. This is the place for all of the short-form content as well as the individual sections and just generally speaking smaller things. If you are into the longer form content, youtube.com/generallynerdy is the place to go see that. With that out of the way, let's get into this. Music, we have a lot of everything. Just gonna put that out there. So let's start up in follow-ups. We have a follow-up on the new Ozzy Osbourne record that we talked about when he initially said that he was working on it during quarantine. Well, according to wife Sharon, the new record will be out in September, and we do have a little bit of the cast of players that are involved with this record. We have Chad Smith on the drums once again. He's also one of the producers on the record. Robert Trujillo and Duff McKagan switching off bass duties between the two of them, and then Andrew Watt also producing as well as covering some guitar duty. So that's what we have on Ozzy. Our next follow-up has to do with As I Lay Dying. This one's really interesting because another band member has left. We have Josh Gilbert, bassist and backing vocalist, has parted ways with the band. Not the same kind of drama as the last member that they lost. Though they didn't really have a direct statement about it. They just said, thank you for the opportunity. I'm going in a different musical direction, quote unquote. So really interesting things going on behind the scenes, apparently, with As I Lay Dying. That is the news, though, so let's move over to new music and videos. Our first one is My Chemical Romance has released their first single in, I think it was like 14 years. The name of the song is Foundations of Decay, and this is one of those few bands that seems to be getting better with age. This new track is listenable. Not a big MCR fan, as I think is obvious, but honestly, they've been getting slightly more and more listenable since the Black Parade. The record that they put out right after Black Parade, not my favorite either, but this one seems like it's shaping up to be something interesting. Again, the name of the new track, Foundations of Decay, a little dark, a little indie, a little well-produced indie even, and yeah, definitely worth a listen, so go check that out. Our next new music comes from Gore. Gore's new song is Berserker Mode. Oh, wow. It's been a minute since I've seriously taken a listen to Gore, especially since Brocky passed. I definitely haven't listened to anything really since that. And so this is my first new listen to Gore. And this sounds a little like power metal. That is not what I expected out of the Gore camp. Interesting, though kind of unremarkable. Take a listen, let me know what you think, and come back. Our next piece of new music has to do with Motionless in White. They just put out a new single called Slaughterhouse featuring Brian Garris, who is the vocalist from Knocked Loose. This is a band that I feel like I should have a better appreciation for. I just don't. This song, though, definitely works in their favor. There are still elements of their sound overall that I just can't get into. I think that the Brian Garris portions are a well-deserved addition to their sound, so definitely worth a listen there as well. I don't know. I can't necessarily, again, get behind their sound. Anyway, we're rambling. We're moving on. Our final piece of new music for the catch-up episode has to do with Lorna Shore. I've gotten flack in the recent past for being a bit of a metal snob when it comes to these guys. I actually really like Lorna Shore. I'm not the biggest fan of their current vocalist. I think he's good. I just think the guy that he replaced was better. Though we're not going to get into the politics of why he had to be called in. New song is called Sun Eater. Link for all of the songs can be found down in the description. Sun Eater is kind of more of what you would expect out of Lorna Shore. Everything's kind of taken up another notch. I wouldn't say they're quite 211 on some of those elements, but they're getting close. The vocals, the thing that I'm not the biggest fan about their vocals, and we've talked about the instrumentation, my issues with their instrumentation, but the vocals, it sounds like he's singing through, like literally through his tongue. And that, I think, is one of the reasons why I don't think he's as talented as the last dude. Though, again, super talented kid. I'm not trying to disparage. I just think that there's room for growth. So go check out Sun Eater, the new track from Lorna Shore. That's what we have for new music. Let's get into tours. We have 311 has announced a new tour starting September 2nd in Columbus, Ohio, running through November 12th in Los Angeles, California. There are three cities on this tour where they're going to spend multiple nights, specifically 2 nights each. And those cities are LA, New York, and Chicago. So if you happen to live close enough to catch either or any of those shows, you are in for a little bit of a treat. As 311 is wont to do, they do some crazy stuff when they play live. And this time around, they're going to be on those 6 nights, because two different nights per city, 3 cities, 6 nights. They're going to be playing the entirety of one of their first 6 albums during each of those nights. In order, I believe, though I didn't write down the names of those 6 albums, because if you're a 311 fan, you already know. If you're not, you're probably not going to check out the show anyway. Though, I do know that 311 puts on a hell of a live show, so you should go check that out. Also, of note, the openers for those 6 nights are going to be unique for those 6 shows. They're going to be representative of the bands that they went on tour with during that era of the band. So, I believe one of them is The Urge, which is totally out of the blue kind of band to be playing with 311, but yeah, it is what it is, I guess. At the time, they were huge. So pretty interesting. Link down in the description if you're interested in purchasing your tickets. Our next tour is one that I'm so torn about. Ghost, Mastodon, and Spiritbox are going out together. Starts August 8th in San Diego, California, runs through September 23rd in Green Bay, Wisconsin. The final date, actually there's 2 dates, the final date and then about 5 to 6 dates before the final date, is not going to feature Mastodon, is instead going to have Carcass in the Mastodon spot, which, again, so strange to me that Mastodon is not the headliner of this tour. Ghost is. I just feel like Mastodon is not only a more talented band, but just bigger in the community. So why would they not be the headliner? But yeah, very strange. Links in the description as usual if you're interested in tickets. Our final tour that we are talking about that has been announced since the last time we had an episode is Bloodywood, the Indian folk metal band that is actually surprisingly good in spite of themselves at times, is going on their first American US tour, and it is going to start September 24th in Louisville, Kentucky at the Louder Than Live Festival, and it runs through October 13th in Dallas, Texas. Links, as always, in the description for tickets. And this one, it looks like they're playing much smaller venues than I anticipated, just considering the hype around this band. I thought they were going to be playing 5,000 seaters for sure, and they're playing 1,000 seaters. So if you are lucky enough to grab yourself a set of tickets, then by all means go check them out. These guys have a pretty killer first record, and I'm really interested to see how they do live. That is, though, what we have for tours. Let's get into actual news. We have Sinsaenum, Joey Jordinson's final project band that he was in when he passed. They are working hard on their 3rd record, and they have kind of have announced the fact that they have finally found a replacement for Joey. It's a weird thing to say because who honestly could replace Joey Jordinson? Nobody, really? Nobody. But we do know that they have found somebody to sit on the kit, though they are not yet ready to announce that person's name. It is somebody who is apparently close to the band, so ideally Joey is looking down fondly on who is hitting the skins, as it were. Our other piece of news has to do with Cliff Burton, Metallica's one-time bass player, the epic, iconic bass player man himself, Mr. Cliff Burton, who tragically passed at the age of 24, now has a museum in his honor in the country in which he passed, near the site, actually, where the tour bus wrecked while they were on tour in Sweden. It is Ljungby, Sweden. He has his own museum now. And why wouldn't he? He absolutely, I'm kind of surprised it took this long to happen. So yeah, it's pretty interesting. If you're interested in getting a little deeper in that, if you don't have the ability to go to Sweden to check it out, then there is links in the description so you can go check it out digitally. But that is what we have for our music section. Let's do music suggestions. This one is kind of not necessarily related to the other ones, to the rest of the news this week, but because they are on tour and I am going to see them next week, Limp Bizkit Still Sucks is our musical recommendation this week because it's a surprisingly good record in spite of itself. It's too short. They have 2 acoustic tracks on there for some reason. They have 2 covers on there for some reason, but still, in spite of those things which should be negatives, it is absolutely a listenable record and in fact an enjoyable record. So if you have not listened to it recently or just haven't given it a shot yet because you're a fan of $3 Bill and only $3 Bill when it comes to Limp Bizkit, then you should, well, I don't know, if you're only a $3 Bill listener, then the other record you should be listening to is The Unquestionable Truth. But if you just like good, fun music that is heavy at times and very creative, then Still Sucks is a great record to add to your rotation. So, once again, this has been just a brief segment from the larger episode that has been posted over on the main channel, youtube.com/generallynerdy. Go over there for the long form content or just subscribe here if you want it in bite-sized chunks. Thank you very much for joining me, nerds. We'll see you in the next one. Before we go though, always remember that if it's generally nerdy, it's probably here.